Today we're going to be writing equations of lines. We're going to start by writing them in point-slope form and then change them into slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form, you probably remember, is y equals mx plus b. Do we need to talk about what m and b represent? Or have we talked about that at least 4 times already this year? Yeah, we have. Okay, point-slope form, you may remember, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. If you are super familiar with this, you won't need to do this. If you're not super familiar with it, we're going to be putting numbers into x1, y1, and the m. That's the places where you put numbers in. Point-slope form comes from using a point, x1, y1, and a slope, m. So that's what those letters represent that you're going to be sticking in there. Okay, number 1 is the hardest problem in all of notes today. So brace yourselves. This is going to be tough. Okay? Write an equation of the line that has the given slope and y-intercept. Make sure your answer is in slope-intercept form. The slope is 3. The y-intercept is -6. I know this is challenging, but give it a shot. How should we write this equation? Y equals 3x minus 6. Oh, phew. We got this. Okay, now that we're done with the hard stuff, let's move on to the easy stuff. If you're rolling your eyes at me on the video, I'm sorry. I'd have to do something to make things interesting, right? Number 2, write an equation of the line passing through the given points. Write your answer in slope-intercept form. We are going to start by writing this in point-slope form and then converting it to slope-intercept form. There is another way to get your answer. On the test, I don't care which method you use as long as that method is not grabbing the equation off of your neighbor's paper and writing it down in your paper. That's the only method that is absolutely unacceptable. But I don't care which method you use as long as you get the right answer. But on your assignment today, you will have to do both point-slope form and slope-intercept form. So step 1, we can't do anything unless we have our slope. So our first step is going to be find your slope. Do you remember how to find slope? So 4 minus -1 over 3 minus -2. That would be 5 over 5, which is 1. Okay, step 2. And for this example, I am actually going to write out point-slope form so that we can put the correct numbers in directly underneath and you can really see how everything lines up and where everything goes. And remember, y1, we're going to stick something in there. We're going to put something in place of m, and we're going to put something in place of x1. So y minus, what should we use as y1? -1. Now notice point-slope form has subtraction in it. So if our coordinate is -1, we do end up with minus a negative. That is okay. So -1, that comes from the y value of our point, equals m. What is our m? 1. X minus, what is the x value of that same point? -2. So again, notice that our coordinate was negative, so we had to put minus a negative. Okay, y minus a -1. Minus a negative basically means plus. And x minus a -2 basically means plus. Okay, step 3, we need to get this in slope-intercept form. Does anyone remember from Algebra 1 how to do this? When you see a number in front of parentheses, what are you always tempted to do? Multiply, distribute. So let's distribute this 1. So y plus 1 equals 1x plus 2. Do I really need to write that 1 in front of the x? No, we don't need to, but you can. Okay, this is starting to look like slope-intercept form, but we want it to be y equals. It's not quite y equals yet. What should we do for our last step? Subtract 1 on both sides. Y equals 1x plus 1. All right, so there's the full process. We used our x1, y1, and our slope, plugged it into point slope form, distributed the slope, got y by itself. Now, do we have to use the first point? What do you suppose would have happened if we would have used 3 in place of x1 and 4 in place of y1? It would still work. It does not matter which point you use. So we used the first point because we're used to just using x1, y1. But if you look at those 2 points and you think, wait a minute, I really don't like negative numbers, and that second point is positive numbers. If you want to use the point that has positive numbers, use the point that has positive numbers. You can pick which point you want to use. All right, are you ready to try number 3 on your own? Go for it. If you're watching the video, this means you should pause the video, try number 3 on your own, then play the video to check yourself. Don't just stare blankly at the screen. Actually, take some notes and stuff. Okay, I actually did this problem twice. First, you need to find your slope. Your slope is -2. Then in green, I chose the first point, 1, 6, as my x1, y1, and my slope of -2. Then in purple, I used the second point as my x1, y1, and the slope of -2. What I want you to notice is, as long as you put things in the correct places, it doesn't matter which point you choose, you should end up with the equation y equals -2x plus 8. Now, the other way to do this, which some of you might have learned in Algebra 1, I'm not going to actually, I'm going to erase this, so don't use up your space over here. But if you know that your slope is -2, you could write y equals -2x plus b. Then you could plug your point in, 6 equals -2 times 1 plus b. You could find out that 8 is your b value. The problem with this method is that a lot of people get b equals 8 and they're like, all right, I'm done. But they haven't actually written the equation in slope-intercept form. You have to remember to go back up here and write 8 in place of that b. And a lot of people forget to do that. But in Algebra 2, we are going to be using a lot of functions that look similar to point-slope form, so I want you to get used to that style of formula. So for your assignment today, it is going to ask you to find the slope, use point-slope form, and then change it to slope-intercept form. All right, number 4. If anyone has tried number 4 yet, they might be thinking, what? So first step, like we did before, find our slope. 15 minus 8 over 5 minus 5. What is 7 divided by 0? Undefined. Anytime you're thinking, I don't remember, is that 0 or is that undefined? Try plugging it in your calculator. If it's 0, your calculator will tell you it's 0. If it's undefined, your calculator will say error. If you see error on your calculator, that means you can't do the math that you just tried to do. It is undefined. It's also a good idea to put a slash through it just so you're not tempted to say it's 7 or it's 0 because it's not. It's undefined. What type of line has undefined slope? Vertical. Undefined is the U in VUX. Vertical lines have undefined slope and their equations are x equals something. So this equation is going to be x equals something. We just have to figure out what that something is. And this is where crossing out that 7 and that 0 can be really important, because I don't want you to be tempted to put 7 or 0 here. Take a look at your points. Do you notice anything about the x value of your points? They're both 5. So x is 5. Every single point on the line x equals 5 has an x value of 5. So if our line is vertical, look at the x values of your point, and that will tell you what the equation is. Similarly, if you get a situation where you have a slope of 0, your equation would be y equals, look at your points and see what the y value of your points was, and that would be your equation.